but gotta start at some point. I gotta find my tablet pen. There she is. I'm all good. What should I draw for the stream notice? And also, what way was it facing last time? I'm going to guess it was facing to the right, so it'll be facing this way. I know. I know it just looks like I'm drawing a circle that could go either way, but there are left-facing and right-facing circles. Hi, Mystery. We're gonna see how I do without any focus meds. I feel like I could be in a better zone to stylize, but sometimes I just need to get the engines revving. For cartoonier things, I feel like a line of action is more important. I actually do not remember how I stylized dupe interest when I did that experiment. I just remember that I did that experiment. I think I did some pronounced eyelids for dupe though. Hello, Taylor and Josie. I'm starting to remember people. So for this stream, I'm gonna be doing likely some stylization stuff, and I don't know if people want me to work on practicing different characters or like their characters are mine. Neck needs to be longer though. Ugh, I'll just leave that line as is. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Right off the bat, I feel like I can do Sugar and Lola. I am prepared either way. Sort of. I'm going full Garfield with her. Let me move this up a little. One thing about Dupe's design is these marks right here. inside of the wrist. It used to be, it didn't really matter which way you did these, but for myself, I wanted more consistency. So I decided it was 2 on the inside of the wrist and 1 on the outside in the middle. Which I think making a character design where I had to seriously consider the orientation of the wrist at whatever angle helped me start paying attention to a lot of smaller details, especially regarding handedness. Floating eyebrows are a staple of exaggerated styles. Let me put a stream notice here. Gray Undertale is my name, and Toby Fox is currently pressing a lawsuit about that, but I'm gonna deal with that. I'm gonna add a little spotlight light here. Listen to Nightcore and breakup songs to get you in the mood for emotional art. Ideally, Nightcore breakup songs. But those are kind of a rarity. If you can't find Nightcore breakup songs, store-bought is fine. this imagery. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. There's this old anime that I've been watching with my girlfriend, which has a lot of still frames and is very dramatic. I live for that kind of melodrama. It's also got like a lot of lesbians in it. Butch lesbians though, like it's fairly innocent in its portrayal. Partially because it's an older anime. Some shit happened in like the 70s or 80s. But that was before then. I'm hoping with these streams that I can kind of figure out a more set cartoony kind of style, because I do miss drawing exaggerated things just for the fun of it a lot. And I would like to kind of give myself a place where I can do that. More as a job thing. Like if I can figure out a decent style for cartoony things, I think it would be a very similar kind of niche to the Teeth and Tears. Even Teeth and Tears, which was all about expressiveness, I felt like was limited a lot by the expectation of being very focused on accurate form and things like that. So for a cartoony thing, I think it would be more, you give me a character and I'm going to fuck them up. And we both agree that's what you want. This is good enough. It really is. Okay, I'm gonna put this up on Patreon real quick and then I'll get fucking started. a little out of it today, so things are going to be a little slower than usual. Potential breakup song was a jam for me as a kid. Dupe couldn't be an actor because they'd be like, this isn't acting, this is real. I'm really feeling this. I can try Bailey too. Bailey's already pretty exaggerated. And again, that's what I said about Dupe and Trist, and that turned out fine too. I'm gonna say Otis would represent me in court. So, first I'm gonna merge these, okay. So, what I did for Dupe and Trist was I drew them in their normal style, and then using that as a reference, drew them again in a more exaggerated style. So I'm gonna try that with Sugar first. And I'm gonna give myself more space for this. Headshot first, and then exaggerating the body. I'm already in that zone, apparently. The exaggeration zone. Always like drawing Sugar's hair, just a little messy when possible. What's interesting about doing this, and possibly a little harder about doing this, is with my own characters, is they are already pretty stylized. At least a lot of them. So I have to figure out, how do I make this even more, how do I push this more without going overboard? Nose is up a little too high here. Bring her back down to earth. I do think her eyes will be touching just because of how big they they will be if I exaggerate them anymore. I also think her nose would probably get smaller. I'm thinking, because her jaw is so unpronounced right here, making her nose smaller, I could just have the bottom of her mouth kind of lead right into her neck. Her teeth need to be bigger, probably. Let's get her eyes out the way. Maybe a little lower? Ears, I'm guessing, would get bigger. I'm guessing eyes would, at this point, take priority over the snout. So the snout wouldn't overlap with the eyes anymore. There's something called priority in cartoon design, where your most exaggerated elements will take precedence, like a foreground, over the less exaggerated elements. It's been a long while since I read about it. I'm thinking, what can I do with these to make them not just empty space? Sugar usually has kind of a texture point right here. So I'm thinking this. Kind of looks like irises. I feel like Otis wouldn't read Nafna, honestly. Neck could probably be shorter. Her neck isn't super long, so that can be de-exaggerated. The hair, I'm thinking, won't come over the eye anymore. It'll just be pushed either all the way to this side or that side. Let's try doing a full thing of her like that, though. Here we get some squash and stretch going. Because I want a smile. I'm gonna keep her hair going this way just so that it's obvious how it looks. I don't want her eyebrows touching there, but how it looks when it's facing the camera. Gonna need a little more headroom up here, up top. Really big pause, but really exaggerated taper. Let's get rid of some of these guidelines. Can you imagine if Dropout was entirely in this style? Fucking Crash Bandicoot looking asshole. I think I'm gonna give her a t-shirt here just to make it easy on myself. And move her down a little bit. Baby needs space. Get that other ear in there. I feel like I would want her legs to be a strong taper to the ankles and then some large paws. Here I am trying to clean up my pathetic attempt at lines. I can do Crash probably fairly quickly. I would rather draw Trash Bandicoot, honestly. I'm going to mess with the colors here real quick. Maybe the colors for both of these. See if I can exaggerate her design in that aspect too. Really, the full package. Sugar is designed to have, she's actually a pretty classical mid-tone, light tone and dark tone, tertiary character design. So hopefully she's not too hard to deal with. I want to say this should be a creamy yellow. I'm most interested in working with the eyes, but probably shouldn't start with them. Gonna see how saturating the colors works here. Makes me vaguely hungry. Pumpkin Spice Crash Bandicoot. certainly interesting looking, if nothing else. I am going to try to make the brown a little yellower. Betterish. Let's try Lola though. Let me get the... Lola is an especially exaggerated character as is. I think I'm gonna make her second pair of eyes floating. I can just feel it. Lola's neck is a little longer in general. I'm gonna leave her without her hat on. Sorry, Lola. Her locks are supposed to just kind of frame her face. She would probably have turf bangs if they weren't locked. I think that's decent. So her neck will obviously be longer. I'm thinking I want to start with the more ovally kind of circle. I'm thinking maybe her eyes will stay on there if possible. I do want to exaggerate her eye bags though. This is true. I should start with the nose. That's like her most prominent feature. Which might be a separating kind of barrier for her eyes. Thinking about it, how do I want to work with her? She could literally have it up here, but I'm gonna go back to this one. See what I can do. I'm thinking I'll give it a little bit of an upwards hook. Thinking I'm not really liking this in terms of exaggeration. More specifically, I'm thinking about the salmon lady that I did. And if the same kind of construction that I used for her head would work for Lola in a more exaggerated sense. When I'm having a difficult time with a character, I think the best course of action would be to break the design down. So Lola's head is supposed to be at its core an upside down kind of teardrop shape. Which then goes into this part. She looks kind of like a spoon. So then you put her eyes on. And you almost have a complete Lola. So what I want to do, because that's a core part of the design, is keep the teardrop shape and figure out how to exaggerate the nose while maintaining that. Which I can't do like this, I don't think. Where her snout is basically her entire facial structure's pivot point. Maybe I could though. I'm gonna try that and see how it turns out. The thing about exaggerated designs is the reason that I dial back exaggeration, even though I prefer to do cartoony stuff, is that there is a point where you abstract something so much it won't make sense anymore. So right here, I think drawing a head-on view where she's like this would look very weird. Which is why I've kind of grounded her in a more realistic design and other characters. But I do want her snout to be thinner. Basically, her mouth is going to lead directly into the neck too. Now this one's more Banjo-Kazooie, in my opinion. Solely because of those floating eyes. I think for cartoony styles, I usually drop the anime eye thing and go back to fully closed eyes. Still a little too thick. Hello, Lola. There we go. She's gonna need more of these. I think for the locks themselves, they should probably taper out to something bigger. So less like this, more like this, to mirror the rest of her shape. I'm not really sure I would say I have any inspirations, just because I'm so incredibly picky. I know Vertical Vest is a very good cartoony style. John Kay, I used to read a lot of his shit. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's written at this point, but it was very interesting to be able to read theory about cartoon designs as though it's a serious practice, even though people, like, the entire point of cartoons is usually to have something to not take seriously. Thinking who else? This is a problem I have with cartoons, is I feel like a lot of them don't do so well. Who the fuck was the person who made Adventure Time's designs? Okay, I guess I should draw Lola in a full body thing here. You can see, like, right here, this wouldn't make sense in a realistic kind of fashion. It looks nice aesthetically, but it doesn't, it's not good for a story like Dropout or something like that. Gonna flatten the head here a little bit. I feel like for cartoons, I find a lot of artists make something occasionally that I really like, but are hit and miss a lot. Need her eyes in here. Her second pair of eyes. It's a very disappointing answer when I have to tell people I don't really have artists who you could look at and say, oh, I can totally see where you got it from, but in this case, I think it is the honest answer. Let me get a line of action in here. She's gonna be very noodly. The neck should, as I've found, the neck should usually be right where the curve is in your line of action, usually, if it's higher up. We'll see. I want her arms to taper. I think she might just have noodle arms, honestly. No taper whatsoever. I'm putting some hand placement so I can figure out what the fuck I'm doing. Give her a dog paw. Very noodly Lola. Let's give her some hair. And go back up here to stylize the colors. I'll do Bailey, and then I think that might be enough for this, but I'll see how long Bailey takes. Nope. There we go. So it's kind of a muted lavender color. And then her hair is dark muted pink. Pinkish red. Honestly, I'm not as well read as I would like to be about character design. And art in general. I didn't go to school for this. And what little schooling I did have was not about cartoon art. So if it's not on the internet, I haven't read it. And then there's an unsavory aspect about cartoons in history that I don't really like either. At least American cartoons specifically. I'm not sure about other cartoons. Give her a little bit of slime. Hey, my Wii U just booted up to tell me that there's something Kirby going on. I can't read it from here. I'm assuming it's an anniversary thing. Alright, so nice vivid kind of purple. And then the pink. Which I'm thinking about. Okay, okay. I have not hit save at all, which I probably should do. There we go. So, Bailey, let me get a reference for this fucko. Bailey also has a similar head structure to Lola. Works really well for characters who don't have ears. What I don't like about Bailey's beak design is that it ends up looking like a duck beak a lot. So Bailey is supposed to have a fairly short or small beak in general, so I will probably exaggerate that. It seems like the two big things for Bailey that I can exaggerate are their eyelashes and their hair. Their hair will be a little challenging to figure out how to exaggerate. Bailey's basic shape here. for my own reference, because if Lola was a pain, Bailey will be a pain. I'm thinking probably I will push their design to look more like Triss, which is shoulders become non-existent, essentially. Thinking, how do I want to exaggerate the eyelashes? Fun fact, Bailey doesn't actually really have that much eyelash. Without makeup on, they barely have any at all. I feel like shorter eyebrows would work for them. Beak might need a little adjustment though. I feel like I would do what I did when I first designed Bailey, and that there is no bottom to the beak. It's just kind of like those bird people in Wind Waker. I can't fucking remember what they're called. My god, Josie. Let's move this down a little bit actually, and give the eyes some space to be expressive. They do kind of look like an owl more when you make their eyes bigger and their beak smaller. I don't want to exaggerate the length of their neck. If anything, I would want to make it shorter. Which is a big difference between Triss and Bailey. Let me see what I can do with... They do look like a scene kid, honestly. Which is not inaccurate. Oh my god. I think I've drawn it once. They are currently basically in their high school scene phase. Just a little fetus, honestly. A little hatchling. Thinking about what kind of pose I want to do. I'm going to do a full open eye here. And one thing that I said I wanted to do with these fucking designs is closed eyes. So I'm gonna try to remember that. Massive tail. Just fucking enormous. Let me get this a little lower on the page so the tail has room to really shine. So I was thinking for this part of the body, why I erased it before is some kind of leg crossing here, if possible, so that it looks a little less flirtatious as opposed. Interesting Bailey note. I think they are the only bird character I have who does not have a thumb right here. Has a spur on the back of their feet instead. I think I'll make the this part of the shaft of the feathers very pronounced. Okay, let's do Bailey's colors. Then call it a day. So Bailey's colors are, honestly, if I exaggerate them, will probably look like their brothers a lot. Basically, Bailey's colors are dulled peacock colors. Let me find the right shade of blue here. So if I exaggerate them, they'll look like regular peacock colors with a little bit of brown thrown in. Their beak and scale color is kind of a purplish gray. And their green is kind of a bluish muted green. The yellow, or the cream on their face, is supposed to be a little yellowish to try to work with the blue. I'm still not 100% on it myself, so Then we've got some brown, which is a little reddish and very muted. And I think that's everything for Bailey in terms of markings. So you can move on to exaggerating that. Start with this one. Bailey, you look like a mess. I'm trying to avoid copy and pasting the brother's colors, so I'm leaning towards a greenish blue here, but still fully saturated. What I don't like about how these colors are coming along right now is I can tell with my eye that someone who is colorblind would not be able to differentiate the colors because they're around the same value, which is something I think everyone should avoid doing in their character designs, personally. I've been commissioned to design a persona actually for someone who is colorblind. It was a very interesting process, but it made me think a lot about how I come at character designs in general. So you can see these are almost the same color at this point. Now they're a little more able to be differentiated. Gonna make the mask a little bit bigger, and it stops right here at the bottom jaw. kind of cooled down the brown a little bit, but saturated it more. I think if I were making an executive decision to figure out this design, I wouldn't leave it vague as in it starts right around the heart. I would kind of decide, okay, it starts at the bottom of the neck, and then the heart is completely surrounded by the brown. Then you can see there's a problem with how light the black is. The black bags here probably go right around the edges of the heart. To keep designs like this consistent, you usually want to put internal rules for things like this, or you want to simplify them out, but I don't want to do that for Bailey. And I think that's about it. God bless this hot mess. Thank you everybody for showing up. Hopefully that was enough for one stream. I'll try to improve on whatever I'm doing for the next one, because I did enjoy this a lot, so